Hey, Mark, you want to drink some scotch?
That is an excellent question, Dan. Hey, this is Mark at the Practical Still. That's one of the best questions I've heard in a long time. Dan?
I'm here to help.
Dan's here to help. Dan Cavallari, we're here in the world headquarters, surrounded by all things whiskey, bicycles, guitars,
Motorcycles, dirt,
cobwebs. How do you have time to do anything else but all these hobbies?
All I do is move stuff from one part of the garage to the other. That's my life.
Well, it's exciting. I'm happy to be here. And I think that's an excellent question. Not just because we hadn't had a lot of scotch lately, but frankly, I'm a little put out with bourbon people.
Yeah.
So you know what? We're going to leave them alone for a day. Mm-hmm. And the only mention of bourbon is going to be that some of these scotches spent life in an ex-bourbon barrel.
All right. Perfect.
All right.
Challenge accepted.
And not only Scotland, we're going to focus on a very small rock out in the water called Islay.
A delicious rock.
And it is Islay. It's Islay, but it's not Islay or Islay. It's Islay. And we've got some fun whiskeys here. Ardbeg. It's fun to say, fun to drink.
We got two of them.
Two Ardbegs. We got a 10-year-old that you can find anywhere from $45 to $55.
Yep.
Lovely 10-year-old single malt, heavily peated whiskey. Mm-hmm. On the other end of the spectrum of Ardbeg, well, maybe not. There's more expensive whiskeys, but we also have Ardbeg Supernova from 2019, a committee release that I paid a ridiculous amount of money for. I will not do so again. Not because it's not a beautiful whiskey. It's just not beautifulist enough from something that doesn't cost that much.
Not practical.
We got some Laphroaig. We got some Lagavulin. And we have the new kid on the block, Kilchoman, which I think is around, it's only been there for 12 or 15 years at this point.
I don't even think it's been that long.
Not long?
Yeah.
But, and they some, not all of their expressions, but some of them are grain to glass type. We're in Colorado. We should say crap like that. Grain to glass. But they grow the grain. Mm-hmm. They malt the grain. I think they do their own malting and for some, but not every expression. But and that's what that is. Kilchoman.
Natural color. It's
natural color. Non-chill filtered.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Fun stuff.
Yeah. Where do we start?
Does it matter?
No, it doesn't because everything's delicious.
Everything's delicious.
Yeah.
Pete, so I don't know. We'll pick something to pour. We'll do a quick explanation on peated scotch and scotch in general.
Should we do like light peat to more peat?
I don't know.
Let's just pour something.
I tell you what, how about Kilchoman first? I have not had a bottle of Kilchoman in probably 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
Tell me about that one.
So I bought this one where I buy most of what I buy at Spirits, Wine, Provisions. This is batch number 3. Now this is United States of America small batch. So there's a specific batch that was sent to the U.S. There's been several because obviously this is batch 3. I think they're on batch 5 now or something to that effect. So this is batch 3 specifically for the U.S. Small batch. It is 48.9% alcohol. Since we're doing Scotch, we're not doing proof, right?
I'm curious, did they even put proof on it? Because small batch is not really a popular Scotch term. They also have that labeled as non-chill filtered, which is most Scotches will say unchill filtered.
Right.
So they're clearly sucking up to American whiskey drinkers.
Yeah, well, again, this was a specifically American release. So, maybe they're trying to here's your olive branch, but they didn't put proof on here, which is swing and a miss, guys.
I'm kind of glad they didn't.
I know it still maintains some of the charm. Beautiful bottle. It's port cask, bourbon barrel, and sherry cask finishes, or excuse me, not finishes, maturations. Yeah. Excuse me, I already used the wrong term.
I don't know if it's wrong.
So they even give you the breakdown, the cask influence.
No kidding.
Yes, this is cool. 50% port cask, 47% bourbon barrel, and 3% sherry cask. So really light sherry cask exposure, I guess. Port hogshead, that's fun.
I think those hogshead things are gigantic. They're like 500 liters or something.
You can walk in them.
Yeah,
they're so
huge.
Big. So this one is supposed to be a marriage of citrus, peat smoke, red berries, stewed plums, and smoked paprika.
Have you ever had stewed plums?
I have not.
I have not.
I'm going to let you pour so that I don't give you a Dan pour.
Look at the color of that. Oh my
something?
goodness. It's
It's like a rosé.
it is. It's like a rosé wine.
Mm-hmm. Which is
my Southern slipped out a little bit right there. That's a rosé wine right there, boy. God damn.
So you get that peat right on the nose.
You do.
It's not big though.
It's like berries, though.
Yeah, I mean it's sweet.
Let's back up a bit. So, Scotch got to be made in Scotland. I believe, and we nobody that listens to this regularly will be surprised to know that we decided what we were going to do a few minutes ago. I didn't brush up on all the details, but Scotch has got to be made in Scotland. It's 100% malted barley. So where a bourbon has a mash bill of different grains, Scotch is single malt. Scotch is always 100% malted barley. Malted just means they germinate the grain, and once it gets to germinating, they got to stop that. They stop it with heat. And that stops the germination process. That's what a malt is that malted grain. And back in the day, particularly on an island like Islay, there's not a big forest or a bunch of trees to cut down, so they burned dried out peat moss from a bog.
Right.
And that peat smells funky, and that's what gets in the whiskey. It is interesting that normally Scotches will say unchill filter and natural color. That one says natural color, but the non-chill is interesting versus the unchill. And,
I'm pointing out to Mark on the
on
Ardbeg
Ardbeg it says non-chill too.
Yeah.
How about that?
Maybe that's the new thing. Maybe we've reached the shores of Scotland.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't drink a ton of Scotch these days. But I think, let's see, what's the other piece of the Scotch piece? Single malt means it's produced in one place. It's all malted barley. So you can't have a single malt that contains distillate from different distilleries. That's what blended whiskey comes in. They'll blend different distilleries together. And I think that's all the details we've talked about. Oh, used barrels.
The barrels, yeah.
Yep. So all those barrels Dan mentioned, those were once used to hold some other liquid. Scotch does not get aged in new barrels. It always is a used barrel. Why? I don't know. I guess that's what they had. I think in the early days, they didn't mean to age whiskey in barrels. They just had to have some place to put it.
Yeah.
So they used the used barrels because, of course, they're cheaper than new barrels. And there's not a lot of trees in Scotland, as we've already discussed. And you use what you can get.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that was from Spain. So the sherry barrels and the Pedro Jimenez barrels and the Oloroso sherry barrels and port barrels from Portugal.
I'll tell you what, and I'm going to say this, but it's not in a derogatory way. There is fruit juice on the nose, not just fruit, like fruit juice. So
Berries.
it's a sweetness, yeah. I like it. It's definitely not as big as the other ones that I think we're going to taste.
You said 48%? 48.9.
So almost 49. So actually higher proof than this Lagavulin 16 over here, which I love. Ooh, and look at this. The Lagavulin also has proof on there as well. Goes to show you.
We must have been away from this too long, or maybe I just remember it. None of that was there before. This is just juicy.
It is.
I'm not sure I like this.
Really? So this one I think is, if I had to put this on the spectrum of the Scotches that are on the table, this would not be my top choice. But I would say if you want to get lightly peated whiskey, this is a good choice, because these ones that we're going to taste are definitely more of that peat flavor. This, you get sort of a flash of it. And then there's the citrusy stuff.
There's a wee bit of peat on the nose. There's more berry or juice, like you said, on the nose. I don't know. I'm not sure I taste a lot of the peat.
I get some for sure, right up front, right when you.
I can tell you what you shouldn't do with it. I wanted to drop a little water in it, but all I had is the can of fizzy water you gave me. Don't put seltzer water in your whiskey. That did not work out well.
Yeah, the face you made was indicative of that.
User error.
So you're not into the Kilchoman.
I might have to live with it a bit, but I believe that is suffering from the same thing that drove me away from finished whiskeys a couple years ago. That tastes like they left 6 or 7 gallons of sherry or port in the bottom of a barrel and put some whiskey on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, again, that rosé color that we're seeing, I mean, maybe you're right, but I honestly don't dislike it.
I don't care for that. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't dislike it. I think it's a good intro to Islay. if I'm going to say,
I do believe you cannot deny that's an Islay whiskey.
Yeah.
Now that it sits, there's certainly peat left in there, but I just think that's because it's a matured. They do all that themselves. Mm-hmm. It's matured in those, not finished in those. I think they left way too much port in the bottom of those barrels. I don't know.
It is sweet. So if you're not into sweets,
I don't think to me, it's not that sweet. It's just all that juice is in there.
Yeah. I definitely get sweet. I mean, to me, this is pretty inoffensive. And I think if I was pretty unfamiliar with Islay whiskeys and just wanted to sort of have an introduction to it, that's a good choice.
Sure. Yeah, but it is, I think they're making fun of the American market with that bottle. No kidding. I think some of these vaunted distilleries sent a team over to figure out what's going on with bourbon. Mm-hmm. They got into tasting some finished bourbons and went, what the hell are these people doing? But if this is what they want, we can leave a bunch of sherry and port in the bottom of these barrels and send it over and maybe they'll love it. And I can imagine a lot of people will. And again, I think being familiar with Islay whiskey, I can see that lives there, but I can also see that being attractive to somebody that is a bourbon drinker that turns their nose up at peat because it's not peat forward. It's actually juicy berry forward, then distillate, then aged whiskey, then peat. I think peat's third in line. Yeah. Maybe that's what they were shooting for.
I'm getting more peat than you are, I think. I mean, I can get it. And it's not, when you sip on Laphroaig, that is like, you're sitting with that campfire in your mouth for a while. Yeah. This is not that. This doesn't have those long.
Well, again, I think it's, I think the order of operations is the wine barrels, the port and the sherry. Mm-hmm. Then it's the whiskey. Yeah. And maybe that's partly the bourbon barrels, but I think then it's the character of the whiskey. Right. Then it's the peat.
And that's interesting too, that they note that it is natural color. I don't think I've ever seen a whiskey that color before. So
that's not age stated, right?
I didn't see it, but let me look a little more carefully here.
I mean, when's the last time you saw a Scotch that dark?
Yeah.
That is dark.
Well, but also, I mean, that pink rosé kind of color to it. I mean, that definitely indicates something else.
I think they left a whole bunch of port wine in the bottom of those barrels.
All right. Well, we'll put that over there.
Okay. It's off. It's in a different shelf. It's no longer involved in the situation.
Well, I will, just as a final word, I'm not in love with it. I probably won't buy it again, but I'm not unhappy to be sipping this.
Yeah. So, and I just don't put de-seltzer water in it. That's all. That's all I can say.
All right.
Ooh. Next. Okay. Well, let's see. None of the others of these spend any time in anything but ex-bourbon barrels, I believe.
Let's double check on that
because I clearly don't know anything about Scotch so far tonight. I'm whiffing on a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, let's see. So this one is ex-bourbon barrels for Laphroaig. Yep. Ardbeg, peatiest, smokiest, most complex whiskey of all.
Yeah, I don't think the Lagavulin tells us anything, but I do not believe there's anything but ex-bourbon barrels involved.
Yeah, the Ardbeg here doesn't say anything either. Although I'm just reading the box, maybe there's something else different on the bottle. Ooh, this is great. As you open the box, there's all sorts of things to read. Yeah. You can read about the dog Shorty, the peatiest nose on Islay, apart from Ardbeg, that is.
Laphroaig?
Shorty.
Oh, he's got the peatiest.
Yeah,
nose.
Yeah.
Oh, the dog. You're telling me the dog story.
Ardbeg's dog. This is like a whole novel. This is like Tolkien.
It is. Okay, so entertainment value high on the boxes from Ardbeg.
Absolutely. Oh, ain't that pretty? All right. What are we drinking?
Well, so that's a brand new bottle. Are you okay opening that?
I mean,
how do you drink them if you don't open?
That's what I bought it for.
Well, how about
we're going to start with the heavy hitter.
We're going to pour some Ardbeg Supernova. So years and years ago, and I forget the year, it was 2013 or 14 maybe. Ardbeg sent not whiskey, but some components of whiskey or some small amounts. I don't know how it worked. They sent it to space. They came back. They made whiskey out of it. That was Supernova. Space, right?
Right.
A couple of 2 or 3 releases, and that was that. And they said no more. And then all of a sudden, a couple of years later, here's the 2019 Ardbeg Supernova. I bought it inadvertently. A lovely, very friendly liquor store owner said, I don't know why you didn't want this Ardbeg Supernova I offered you. And I said, you've never offered me that. And he said, well, you can have this one. And I went, whoops, guess I'm spending $236 on a bottle of whiskey.
Well, I mean, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
You do. You do. But they claim of all the Ardbeg expressions, this is the peatiest. And I think it's around 100 parts per million peat.
What's the
53.8%?
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's pretty high for a Scotch.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And now, as the last color that we looked at in the Kilchoman was very rosé, this is very white wine with
very straw colored, like you'd expect the well-aged,
exactly,
uncolored, natural color Scotch.
And the nose isn't as big as I was expecting. Like, I
have found that there is an acceleration of peat. And certainly the different distilleries and the malting process can change it, but the curve isn't linear. In other words, the more parts per million, Dan's having a moment. The more parts per million doesn't feel, if you double the parts per million, it doesn't feel like you'd expect it to be peatier.
Yeah.
I've had Octomore, which is the world's most peatiest Scotch.
Yeah.
I think it was 230 or 40 parts per million. It didn't taste like that.
This is worth every one of your $237.
It's damn good. It's damn good.
If it was mine, I don't know. My taste different, but since it was your money, I'm really liking this one. It just lasts and lasts and lasts.
That is delicious. It is. It's sweet, not too sweet. It's got a nice bite, but it doesn't drink at the 50. What did I say? 58%,
right? 53, I think.
53.8.
Yeah.
Doesn't drink like that.
No,
drinks a little lighter than that. It is lemony.
Yeah.
And the finish is all day long.
It's still going.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And, one of the things I really like about this is that, with some scotches that are, super peaty, you're just chewing on it. It's like you're in a smoky room that's like they're making smoked salmon next door. This is just such a delicate thing. It's so perfect. The finish is the highlight.
I will say I poured a lot, not a Dan pour.
It's like
I poured a fair amount. We may have to take a break and finish this one.
That's good.
It is.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll say this, and I've not had. There's a ton of different Ardbeg expressions that are typically found on shelves. There are two in particular, Corvekian and Ugadal. And I just said those two words. You still won't recognize it because of the Gaelic spellings of those words. They're about $100 bottles.
Right.
They're in around the same proof range. They're peatier than the 10-year-old. I would buy 2.5, or I'd buy two of those, an Ugadal and a Corvekian and a 10 before I'd buy the one Supernova again.
Well, you should.
I'm going to say that with conviction because supposedly there'll never be any more Supernovas.
Right. Well, but also you're about to taste the 10 right next to it.
I am. I may change my mind.
You may change your mind.
Although I've had lots of 10s.
There's another one.
10's fabulous.
The Ardbeg has a few different varietals, as it were, that I would love to try. I mean, I can't pronounce any of them.
Well, Ugadal I've had a few of. Yeah. Corvekian I've had a couple of. They're fabulous. Yeah. They're super peaty. There's supposedly, Supernova's more peaty. You don't necessarily taste that.
Yeah.
And they're raucous.
Yeah.
They're fun drinking whiskeys. Yeah. Because a lot of scotches, I think the 10-year-old's at 43%, 46%. So a lot of them are going to be 40, 43, 46%. And I'll do the math now. So, 80 proof, 86 proof.
I had to look at the bottle of Lagavulin
in that range. Proof. And that's normal. And don't, as a bourbon drinker or American rye drinker, don't let that turn you off because there's a trade-off. When we're in new barrels with American whiskey, we're getting a whole bunch of the influence of the wood up front. The relationship between proof and barrel time is different than a 16-year-old or a 10-year-old Scotch. The used barrel doesn't give as much back, but it gives different things back. And so you get a lot of flavor because malted barley has a ton of flavor on its own, unlike corn. Yeah. So don't just write something off because it's at 43% or 46%.
Yeah, and I think there's this conventional wisdom, or maybe it's not wisdom, maybe it's just a misconception. But in the bourbon world, a lower proof, people say, "Oh, I need the lower proof because I don't like the burn. I don't like the burn." And with this, you're not exactly avoiding a burn. You're just getting a different flavor. And I think that's also in any good bourbon, when you go down in proof, that's not the only thing you should be looking for is just lack of burn. It should be an increase of flavor. Yeah. And so there's a lesson to be learned from sipping on Scotch if you're a bourbon drinker.
I think so. And I think too, in the relation to proof, proof will hide defects.
Yeah.
Alcohol carries flavor. Right. I get that. But and I heard this from Jackie Zykan, the master taster at Old Forester, part of Brown-Forman, when they're looking for defect, they will proof something down to about 40 proof, I think she said. So 20% alcohol to find those defects. Right. So at 100 proof, a lot of defects will slide right by. Yeah, yeah. I guess the moral of the story is, and I don't want to tell people, you look, if all you can bring yourself to drink is hazmat bourbon, great. But you should not be looking, and burn in particular. It needs to burn more. No, it doesn't. It needs to taste good.
Right.
And finish, if your idea of the finish is your mouth burns for 3.5 minutes, you're missing the point of finish. So finish should be about flavor.
Yeah, right.
In my opinion.
Yeah, that's not finishing. That's stripping the paint off the wall. Yeah.
Yes.
While you're sipping the last bit of yours, just as an aside, if you haven't watched the YouTube video of the actor Brian Cox pronouncing all the different scotches.
It's fabulous.
It's so good. It's so good. Memorize it. It's wonderful.
even though Ardbeg is technically correct, to hear a Scotsman say it, it's a different. It's different.
It's like they discover new vowels somewhere along the line of saying
a little bit like my neck of the woods.
Yeah, I mean that's a different kind of vowels, consonant in your world. That's different. Yeah,
that is a fabulous whiskey. I will admit to being a bit of a homer. I love me some Ardbeg.
It's good.
My wife, Melissa, loves Ardbeg.
Should we do the other Ardbeg next to it just to compare?
I think so. Supernova is not age stated. I've heard all sorts of things in there that there's anywhere from 8 to 20-something-year-old whiskey in there, but they don't admit it, and the rest of it's whiskey people rumors, and we know how accurate that is not.
Let's spread some rumors right now. It's 48 years old.
It's 117 years old.
It spent 25 years in space. All right, let me...
they found it in space. Who knows where?
It's actually space trash.
We have no idea how it got there.
All right, hang on. I'm having difficulty opening the new Ardbeg here. All right, so now we're going to, just as a side-by-side...
I promise not to give you grief about not doing an open the bottle video. Well, since you're opening it right now.
Except we're opening it right now. So we're opening the Ardbeg 10. I just bought this a few days ago and almost dropped the box. Let's see. So I have the bottle in front of me. I'm reading the box. So 46% alcohol by volume, non-chill, filtered, sea spray, tarry rope, immense smoky intensity.
Those are our tasting notes.
And
here's the thing. If you do want to get into Scotch, or you just are and you haven't found Ralphie yet, Ralphie, I believe, is an undertaker.
Yeah.
And he's getting close to 1,000 whiskey reviews. Ralphie is amazing. He's witty. He clearly knows a lot about whiskey, and he can pronounce all sorts of Scottish things.
So one thing I have noticed about certain Scotch distilleries is that they will sort of brag almost about their location on the island.
Yes.
And Ardbeg here on the back of the bottle, it is the southernmost distillery on the island. Our distillery lies at the most southerly part of Islay. So I don't know what that means.
I don't either, but obviously it's at the southernmost part. But I don't believe Islay is that big a place.
It does not appear to be.
And I'm pretty sure you can see Laphroaig and Lagavulin from Ardbeg and vice versa.
So you can just kind of holler across the island.
I think they get along a lot better than most whiskey people.
Sure.
Right. Established in 1815 too.
Yeah. It's all right.
It was defunct for a while. It went out of business and was brought back later.
Well, if anybody has a defunct distillery they're looking to offload, I have tens of dollars that I would pay for it.
Well, I learned one thing owning a bike shop, and that is you should just pay retail for stuff and not try and turn your hobby into a business.
Right.
That's what I did back when I had a chance at retaring before I blew it all in a bike shop.
Yeah, right.
Let's not do that with distillers. Let's just keep buying the whiskey and drinking.
That's what I've done with every single thing I've ever done in my life professionally.
I'm here to stop you from doing that.
Right.
I'm going to tell you what, that's a completely different nose than the Supernova.
Isn't it? It's incredible. In fact, I kind of want to smell the Supernova side by side.
Smell.
I honestly just want to pour a little Supernova. Is it okay if I put a little?
Oh, yeah.
I really do want to smell it.
No, I don't want you to drink the whiskey.
Okay.
When was the last time I ever said that?
I don't know, but you must have been drunk.
That was the only time I ever said that.
I was going to say that never happened, really. All right, let me smell these side by side. Yeah, wow, those are way different. Here, give that a little nose. One of them is...
Did you have a sandwich in that glass before?
Yeah, I put a little pastrami in there.
Like a ham sandwich?
Yeah, I actually wiped it out with a slab of pastrami.
I wish everybody could see Dan's drinking out of his I Love Scotch Anchorman glass.
Which was gifted to me by you.
I was going to say, I used to have one of those.
Yeah, you gave it
Was
to
I
me.
drunk?
I don't know, but I don't care. It's mine now.
Well, Alex, if you're listening to this, I do not remember giving away the glass you gave me as a gift.
Oh, so this is from Alex.
I apologize.
Okay,
yes.
we have a friend in common, Alex.
I apologize.
This is very Alex, I must say. But now it's very
I was looking at it going, I wonder where my glass is. It's like that.
Alex, this is a good excuse for you to come down here and drink some whiskey with us.
Alex doesn't drink, even though he gave me the scotchy thing. And he also got me some badges from a Jim Beam tour that I wore to Interbike one year just to mess with people.
All right, I'm just sitting here sticking my nose.
They're completely different.
They are.
Yeah.
I'm sticking my nose in two different glasses trying to determine what the difference is. But you got me distracted with other talk. Now I want pastrami, by the way. Neither of them is a lighter nose. They're both very flavorful. But I can't tell the difference. There's something different.
I love the tin, but it is, let's say, people are familiar with syrups. This is I forget the grades of maple syrup. This is a light syrup. The Supernova is the super dark, thick syrup.
Well, the finish is also really different. You get that?
Yeah.
It's a little bit tangier almost. It's good.
I love the tin. I will drink the tin all day long, but that's now that is I don't know what you paid for it. I've got a few I paid $45 for.
I paid more than that.
I think it's a $50 or $55 bottle.
55 is what I think I paid.
I think I'd buy 5 of those instead of the one Supernova.
Yeah.
But boy, they are different.
Yeah. I mean, well, what I'm mostly taking, I mean, the nose is different. We know that, but
You could water that a bit because you're talking about 46 versus 53.
I don't want to. I love this.
Well, but I just mean in the name of science.
Oh, yes. In the name of science.
To try and level the playing field. So in other words, is the difference in the body and the finish somehow related to the proof difference?
All right, let's see if I can do this.
It's going to be, I know you don't math well. It's a tiny little bit.
I can spell
because you've got less than an ounce in there, maybe a little more than that.
All right. I'm scared. All right.
Okay, that's good.
All right.
Swirl her around.
All right. So now I've got a splash of water in the
Supernova.
I don't even think that's an ounce of Supernova. And I've got the Ardbeg here.
That's what we should say when people are listening. It's only a tiny little bit
It's
of
only
whiskey.
17 ounces. I don't I mean, to be fair, a Dan pour is about 6 ounces.
We don't even measure in ounces. We measure in portions of a bottle that Dan just poured.
Yeah, no, that Supernova is just so much different. So what I'm getting is, so in the Ardbeg 10, which by the way, I love this bottle. This is the first Ardbeg I ever had.
I drink that all the time.
This has a tangier finish. There's like a little bit more.
The 10?
The 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's like it's almost like I hate to say attacking the back of the tongue because to me that indicates like hotness, but it's not. But it's sharper.
A little peppery.
Yeah. And the Ardbeg Supernova has none of that. It is smooth front to finish.
Does it have none, or is it so fat and flavor that there's other things in there?
I'm gonna have to drink the rest of the bottle of the Supernova to find it. No, this is. Oh, geez. No, I think what this. Yeah, I mean, there is that pepper. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is just that there's a broader spectrum of flavors, and then
because I think the peppery thing it's always get a little pepper on the finish of Ardbeg.
And that's fine. I mean, the pepper's good.
Oh, it's delicious.
But I feel like the pepper on this the 10 is more focused.
But I think we take a lot out of it. You take the filtration, you take the color, whatever out, and now we're down to probably age and a little bit of proof. We negated some of the proof, but we're probably down to age in that.
The finish on this, though, boy.
Forever.
It just goes on and on and on. It's so good.
You can have a pour of that after dinner, and somebody at work the next morning is going to think you're drinking at work.
Or you're eating mud. I don't know.
That finish goes forever.
That is fantastic.
I got to say, as much as I love that 10, and there's always a 10 in the house because both my wife and I love it.
Right.
We haven't had one open in quite a while, but as much as I like that, I feel less like I might not ever buy another $240 bottle of Ardbeg because that's good. And I'll tell you what would be up next. And I almost wish I'd just done it again. If I hadn't just put my foot in my mouth, I wouldn't have bought that. There's routinely available a 19-year-old Ardbeg. It's a few bucks more than the Supernova, but I think I'd spend that money there.
Yeah.
Now, I wish we had a Corvecchian or an Ugadal. These are two ongoing releases. They're pretty much always available. I bet there'd be way less of a difference than we're seeing now between the Supernova and the 10.
Well, one of the big differences, I think, between the Supernova in my glass and the Supernova in yours is that you paid for this. And so this to me...
I have a little more skin in the game.
This is fantastic. Oh, my gosh.
That was our Valentine's Day bottle. I had that for a while. We opened it for Valentine's Day, I think, in 2020.
Well, I should mention, too.
There's a video on the Practical Still YouTube channel of when I opened that bottle.
Perfect. We should open the bottle of the Ardbeg while we're here, even though we already opened it. But the Ardbeg 10 is actually the first Ardbeg I had at your house. You're the one that turned me on to Ardbeg, and this was the first one. I am happy with this bottle.
Oh, I will buy those until the day I decide I never drink whiskey again.
But boy, I'm happy with the Supernova too, mostly because I didn't pay for it.
Yeah. While we're on the 10, if you are venturing into Islay whiskeys, Islay malts, and because maybe $50 is your price point, there are a couple of Kilchomans that are not crazy weird barrels that I think are great. The Macker Bay was the first one as a 5-year-old. It's delicious.
I almost bought that one, in fact.
But I think your key bottles are going to be the standard Laphroaig 10 at 43%, the Ardbeg 10 at 46%. There's a couple of the Kilchomans. There's a couple of there's a couple of Brooklottys that are just beautiful whiskeys. The classic Lottie.
Lagavulin 8.
Well, but now we're talking about $50. Let's just date's 50 or 60. So sure, Lagavulin 8.
Yeah.
Those are going to be your entry points.
Yeah.
They are, to me, vastly different whiskeys, but you cannot go wrong with those.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that and you're looking at Islays, those whiskeys I just reeled off, don't hesitate.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Yeah.
Now, we can kind of narrow it down. If you're willing to swing the bat big, Laphroaig 10, because it's funky.
Oh, it's good, though.
If you want classy, refined, Lagavulin 8. If you want something in between that kind of feels like a wild, who knows what you're going to get, that's the Ardbeg route. I'm
gonna do a little.
Oh, fun! Yeah, mix them
experiment.
up.
So I've got a little bit of Ardbeg 10 left, probably like just a splash.
It really is a little bit. I know it's hard to believe Dan has a little bit of anything in his glass, but it is really is just a little bit.
It's like a mark little bit, not a dang little bit. And I'm going to put it in the Supernova but keep in mind the Supernova also has a tiny bit of water in it. And I'm only doing this because I know this is
kind of like a poor man's Pappy, but with Scotch.
Oh, there's like chocolate now in there, or not chocolate. Like
he's just messing with me because I can't recreate what he's got in his glass.
No,
right
you'll never know. It's got unicorn tears in it. No, it's like a nougat. It's like there's like a sweetness to it. I don't know.
It's probably because you got my Scotch glass.
Yeah, almost certainly. Ooh, that's good. You shouldn't try it.
I would, but we got to drink some more whiskey.
Yes, and I think we should.
Now we got to wait for you to finish.
That's okay. Keep going. But we should talk about Lagavulin because there's a few different ones. Lagavulin has become one of my absolute favorites, and every time I envision Lagavulin, I envision like a fire in my wood stove. And it's not because it's overwhelmingly smoky, but just it seems to suit the mood. But there's a couple different ones. There's the 8.
Does it soot the mood?
Oh man. Like I've drank a lot of whiskey and still that's pretty corny. Lagavulin 8 is your entry level. entry level. That's the practical bottle of the Lagavulin lineup.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. It's good. Then you step up, there's a 10, but there's also, or is it
11?
11.
That's the Nick Offerman.
I was going to say, I thought there was one. Is there a 10 and then the Offerman?
I don't think there's a 10. I think it goes 8, 11. There's a 12 that floats around once in a while.
And then there's the 16. So the Offerman, I have not had the Offerman. I'm curious because honestly, like, okay, we're talking about 11 versus 8 or 11 versus 16, right? I mean,
I don't know.
It's the same stuff. I'm curious.
Yeah.
And you're going to pay a little bit more for it than the 8.
I think because
it's got
Nick has to get paid.
I like Nick Offerman. I'm okay to, like, he's a woodworker.
I try it one time.
He's a woodworker. I like him. He's kindred spirit. He's got a big beard. You got a big beard. There's lots to love. But the 16 has been my favorite bottle of the Lagavulin lineup. But the problem with it is that I bought this bottle there's probably about 3 inches left of liquid in this bottle.
There's a 3-finger pour of a bottle, which
is a Dan pour and a half,
which is about a Dan pour, a third of a bottle. It's about a Dan pour.
The 16 has been consistently one of my favorite scotches, but I bought this bottle for $60. And when I bought this, that was not an unusual price to find this at. Now, if you found this at $60, you buy all of it because you're never going to find it at that price.
I bought a bunch at 70 and I paid 60, but yeah, it's $1.25 on the shelves these days. And I think the last time I was in Hazel's, they had it on sale for $109, but still, that's a long way from $109 used to be the retail price.
I saw it I was just in Maine visiting my brother, saw it on the shelf for $89, and I'm kicking myself for not buying it. So,
yeah,
fantastic. But there's others in the lineup that I have not tried. So I've had the 8, which is very good. This is excellent. So very good versus excellent. So I'm curious where the 11 lands, the Offerman version.
I think the 8 and the 16 are just different.
They are. They're very different.
And speaking of blending things together yourself, an ounce of the 8 and an ounce of the 16 is delicious because the 8's at 48%.
Yeah.
So it's very bright.
Yeah.
The 16's about as classy as the Scotch gets that it doesn't cost $800 a bottle.
Yeah, like it wears a smoking jacket.
That's right. It's very nice.
Monocle.
I'm with you. I like the Lagavulin a lot. Now, I happen to be extremely excited that at some point, one of my favorite stores had a bunch of Lagavulin 8s for $35 a bottle. There's a pile of them stuffed in my cabinet.
Oh, man. I wish I had known.
You did know.
Well, it's not that I didn't know. It's just I wish I knew.
Yeah.
And had spent the money on it.
I believe I told you back then.
You probably did.
That's why I have so many, because I told you and my friend Brian, and neither one of you wanted to buy them, and I went, well, I guess I'll just keep them for $35. How bad could it be?
My mind has expanded since then.
I buy more whiskey when you're in the store than I do when I'm in the store.
I buy a lot of bottles for you. Pour yourself some of this. All
right,
we do need to save a little bit of that for my wife, so we can't kill the bottle.
It's been years. I didn't hear any of that. Rachel, I have no idea what he's talking about.
I just need an excuse to not be in trouble. It's so good.
I think you can always just say, Mark drank all your whiskey, and she's going to go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
but she's not going to be mad about that because you bring so many good bottles here. So it's like Mark said, it's not my bottles, his bottles, it's our bottles. And
it's our collection of whiskeys that we will eventually drink. Although I did a recent calculation. If I stop buying whiskey now, we drink a bottle of whiskey a month.
Yeah.
I will be 60 years old before I see the back of that shelf.
We may need to expand who we include in our whiskey nights.
We're going to need some help drinking this whiskey.
All right. I'm still drinking the Ardbeg, and I'm not unhappy about that at all.
I'll tell you what, man, Lagavulin. God, the nose.
Isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting, as I nose this, I close my eyes. I'm sitting in a confectionery shop. There's pastries. There's light. There's honeys. Oh, God.
If I was to characterize it, so the Ardbeg is delicious, by the way. And I think if I was to say, I talk a lot about it in my videos when I actually record them.
Both times?
All 1.5 times that I've recorded videos, that you get the complete picture. You get the upfront, across the tongue, the finish, and the nose. I mean, it's the 4 things you got to nail. Lagavulin does it.
There is a savor. While there is some sweet notes of honeys or, I don't know, agave. I mean, there's some sweet notes in there. But now we're talking about there's a savory note that makes you think I'm standing on the seashore somewhere. You know, there's a spray.
I have a cable knit sweater on.
Exactly. It's heavier than I am. It's surprising I can stand up with my big cable knit sweater.
Right. Lagavulin to me is the complete picture of what an Islay should be. I mean, honestly.
It you know, you said smoke earlier, and peat and smoke are intertwined, but this is the first one that I taste and I go, smoky.
Yeah, yeah.
It is. The smoke is because of the peat.
Right.
But there's one thing where you go, peat, but then you just go, ooh, smoke.
Yeah.
It's a different, I don't know, vibe.
Yeah. And it's not an unpleasant situation. So there's a lot of people who don't like the peaty flavors of Islay whiskeys, and you have to separate that a little bit because there are different variations of peat, and I feel like this is a good example of that. You get that smokiness, but it's a pleasant smokiness. You know?
Yeah, and this is a whiskey at 43%. It's one of those that, you know, if you're an American whiskey drinker, and it actually, I could not believe they actually put proof on there. Good for them. And
it's an imported bottle, so
I'll
of course,
say it. Well, they still don't usually do that, but I'll say it. So 86 proof. Now, if I said here is a $125 retail bottle of bourbon at 86 proof, every American whiskey drinker is going to go, no way. Do not turn your nose up at Lagavulin 16. It is delicious.
I think it's a fantastic bottle. So here's the question, though. Knowing that a year ago I bought this bottle for, I think it was actually $65, I'll say. Knowing that I bought it for $65, it is now on the shelf for $125. Are you buying it?
At $125? No.
Yeah. But it occasionally goes on sale.
There are, no matter how much you get me to drink, no matter how tasty the whiskeys are, I cannot help but add the economic piece in there. And just like I always say with bourbon, I'm not paying that crazy money. There's something I can find. I'll drink the 8s. I'll drink some Laphroaig. I'll drink other things. Now, will it be as dreamy and as refined as this? Probably not.
Right.
But no way I'm paying $125 for that.
And it's also worth noting that all scotches went up in price.
Yeah, the tariff issues. Yeah. And we're not getting that money back. I don't care what happens to those tariffs officially. No way that we claw back those prices.
No, absolutely not.
It will break my heart. I don't know what else that I've had. And then there's so many Scotch distilleries. But I don't know what else that I'd have that really takes the place of Lagavulin.
I think, to me...
Whoops.
Whoa. Holy cow. That was like almost a Dan pour.
So Dan pushed his bottle up because I was holding the Lagavulin. And I think he was hoping, you know, we're getting a little deep into this. I don't really want to not do a Dan pour, so I'll let Mark pour. Yeah. I'm a little off balance already. There's a whole bunch of... Sorry, Rachel. It's in Dan's glass, though. It's your fault.
To be fair, though, I have 2 glasses going right now.
I guess you could pour that back in if you want.
No, I feel okay about this.
Sorry about that.
Oh, man, that nose. Oh. All right. So now I've got Ardbeg in one hand and I've got Lagavulin in the other. All right, so I got to do the nose comparison. Ooh, this is butterscotch all day.
Oh, that's a good. That's
the Lagavulin.
Yeah, but there's still just this savory note to it that it's just delicious.
Well, so okay, and this is corny, but a few weeks ago we went camping. My wife and I went camping with some of our friends who are also part of our whiskey group, and
it weren't me,
and weren't you. It was really cold. You're glad you missed this.
I'm not a camper.
Yeah. You're glad I'll take you when it's tame. It snowed in this trip. It rained.
Did y'all have to run into the hotel?
No, but it was like 70 at one point.
But there's a hotel out there, right? No?
Sure, Mark. Yeah. Yeah. We checked into the hotel when it snowed. Well, the kids wanted to do s'mores, and I'm not like a huge sweets fan, and the funny thing is, like, the taste of a s'mores to me, this isn't it, but the smell of a s'mores.
Yeah. There's a burning sugar kind of thing. Yeah. Oh, and a crusty bread sort of. Oh, yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. But there is that, I don't know, man, that is a delicious whiskey.
Yeah.
And again, if all you take out of this is check your proof snobbery at the door.
Yeah.
Because 16 years in those barrels and that environment makes a ton of flavor, and you don't have to be 120 proof to enjoy it. And
I also say that read the labels, because it's seriously as like Tolkien, like
they're fun.
They are really fun.
But they've got
rushing over rocky
They've
falls.
got socks in Scotland older than the United States of America.
That's
so
true.
There's some interesting history back there that's fun to play
Some
with.
of those age barrels.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
All right. Well, I've got 2 glasses here, but you've got an empty glass.
Yeah, I only have one, but it is empty.
Yeah. You want a double fist like me. It's fine.
That's okay.
But the Laphroaig 16 is calling your name. So Laphroaig,
By the way, Melissa did not. I don't think she noticed that I walked out with these 2 bottles. It's her Valentine's Day bottle and the Laphroaig 16, which she quite enjoys.
she doesn't know. She doesn't listen to our podcast, does she?
No.
Okay, we're good. It's telling that neither of our wives listen to this nonsense.
They hear enough of it.
Yeah. So the Laphroaig, my first experience with Laphroaig 10 was a 1 ounce pour that I sipped on for about 2 hours. It is pure smoke, and it's peat. It's I always equate it to smoked salmon for some reason. I've never had the 16 though.
Whatever you think about peat, whatever the extreme is of peat, anybody into Scotch always relates that to Laphroaig.
Yeah.
It is funky. It is the burning Band-Aids on the hospital floor. And in fact, usually around Christmas, they do a thing where you send them your best description and they'll actually display that on the wall at the distillery.
Oh, I love it.
So people will do this. It's like kissing a mermaid in a burning raft in the middle of the ocean.
Is this the one where you own a plot of the...
Yes, I am a Scottish landowner. I have a 99-year lease on a 1 foot square piece of peat bog. And they recently changed that program, but you can still get in on that. You buy a bottle of Laphroaig.
Build tall.
Yes. and they send you the coordinates for it, the Latin long.
So you can go online and look at it.
And if you go to the distillery, because you are a landowner, they will pay you rent in the form of the finest dram they have to pour you. They'll hand you a pair of big galoshes.
Yeah.
And a GPS, and you can wander your way out to your little plot, and they'll give you a little American flag if you're American or wherever you're from.
Yeah.
You put your little flag down. It's fun. It's called the Friends of Laphroaig.
Right.
They recently changed the program, but I believe there's still something like that.
Just a quick translation. Galoshes, if you're British or any of that, it's wellies.
Wellies,
yeah.
I did not know that. And I think the most telling thing is Laphroaig knows what they are.
Yeah.
But they're kind of like, it's us. Come at us.
Yeah.
On the label of all these bottles, the most richly flavored of all Scotch whiskeys.
Richly.
And by richly, they mean smoky.
Oh, yeah. So the first time I had this was in Flagstaff, Arizona, and a friend bought it for me. John Benson. Shout out to John.
Sniff.
Oh, yeah. That's you are in a peat bog. You were in the 1 square foot that Mark owns.
I'm in my 1 square foot of peat bog. John, what were you saying?
John bought me my first dram of Laphroaig. I sat there for literally 2 hours sipping that going, do I like this? I like this. Do I like this, though? I like this.
I believe that's not enough.
Yeah,
sorry, Dan. I shorted you. I killed you on the last one, and then I shorted you on that one. I believe that the genetic makeup of a person determines their love or not love of peat. I've not yet met anybody that first went, that's awful.
Yeah.
And then gets used to it over time.
Right.
You either like it or you don't.
Yeah. I was in a bar in Virginia when the smoked salmon thing came to me. And I don't know if it was because I was near the ocean or what, but it like smoked salmon as a descriptor has never left me.
There is definitely an ocean component because again, Islay is this rock in the ocean that sits off the coast, mainland Scotland.
Yeah.
The distillery is battered by the salt air, and it cannot help but affect the whiskey.
Look at the colors side by side. The Lagavulin is way dark.
And those are two
darker.
16-year-old whiskeys.
Yeah.
The Lagavulin does not say
not colored,
free of color.
Yeah. So that's the thing with Scotch is they can add coloring.
They can, yeah. Whereas a bourbon, I think all bourbon, but certainly a straight bourbon cannot have a coloring agent in it.
Yeah.
Scotch can,
but none of these are as dark as a bourbon. I mean,
no! Yeah, it's a 16-year-old whiskey that looks like it's been in a bourbon. If you did bourbon, it'd been in there 6 months.
I might shell up the $120 for another bottle of Lagavulin 16. It's so good.
Well, let me give you an option because 130 is what I paid for that Laphroaig 16.
Yeah. Okay, so I haven't sipped the Laphroaig yet. And to be fair, I also haven't had Laphroaig I've never had Laphroaig 16, and I haven't had Laphroaig 10 in probably 2 years. So, because we've been so deep in the bourbon.
I just put a bunch of Laphroaig 16 in, and that is delicious.
Your beard changed color.
Oh, I bet it did. I bet it stood up straight, too.
All right, I just had a sip of water to kind of cleanse the palate. Let's get to this Laphroaig.
Completely. So 16-year to 16-year-old. And you got them in your glass.
I do.
You got a 16-year Lagavulin across the island, down the street. We got a 16-year-old Laphroaig. They're staring at each other.
Yeah.
Couldn't be more different.
The nose in the Laphroaig has essence of sugar or sweetness.
I get a bunch of lemon and kind of a honey sweetness.
There's the honey. Honey is what we're getting. Yeah. So Laphroaig does not have, or Lagavulin does not have the honey.
But there's some sort of natural sweetness in there. Maybe it's agave. There's some kind of sweetness in the Lagavulin.
All right, let me take this is my first official sip of Laphroaig 16.
In how long? Ever? No,
Ever.
I left some here at one point.
No, ever. I'm gonna sprout chest hair and just like. I've had Laphroaig 10, lots of Laphroaig 10. Oh, this is mine.
My wife will kick your ass for that.
I will take that ass kicking. This is it.
Isn't that good? For the first half of that bottle, I thought, man, that's really good. But the Laphroaig cask strength 10-year-old, so extra percentages. This is at 48%. That cask strength comes out around 56, 58. Yeah. And it's about $90 most of the time.
That's good.
But man, once this bottle is set for a while and we decided, it's really good, we're not gonna kill it. The next time I came back to it was just a few weeks ago. I was like, oh my goodness.
So wait, sorry,
it's so good.
I wasn't listening to it all.
Well, in that meantime, I got my hand back on the bottle. Yeah. It's on my side of the table.
I'll jump across. How much does this bottle cost?
$130 I paid for it.
Okay, that's tough.
And I'll tell you what, I always research ahead of time. I never snap by high dollar whiskey. When I saw that when it was in a locked case, I just stood there and raised my hand. I'm like, come here.
I'll have this
Come
now.
here. Yeah. I want that now.
These are both excellent. The Lagavulin 16 and the Laphroaig 16, they could not be any more different.
They're completely different whiskeys.
That is phenomenal in such a different way. Like this is like the ocean is upset.
Yes. It's an angry ocean.
It is an angry ocean.
It's spraying salt.
But you're inside and warm. Like that's you're watching the angry ocean.
Like you ought to consider writing books or something.
I should. You mean more books? Ugh, God help me. The Lagavulin is definitely a mellower experience. They're both so good though. Yeah. The Laphroaig though, if I was going to spend $130, that might be the one. What was it pre-tariff? Do you remember?
I don't know. I bought it. I did not know there was any such thing as a 16.
Okay.
Usually on the shelf, at least the stores I go to, there's always the 10. Mm-hmm. There's a quarter cask. Mm-hmm. There's Lore, which I have had. It's it's $120 bottle. Yeah. Delicious. It's anywhere from 8 to 23-year-old Laphroaig sherry finished, sherry matured whiskeys.
Yeah.
Delicious. There's a Cardenas occasionally shows up, which is another. I think it's a port finished. I can't remember the thing. There's 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Never had I seen a 16. I've seen a 25.
Oh, that's good.
A 25 is a sherry finished version of. But I've never seen a 16.
I'm exhaling magic. I mean, it's so good.
I'm talking magic. It's just it's just magic.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's excellent.
Yeah.
This makes me want to buy a lot more bottles of Scotch. Not gonna lie.
I think that's why we did this. We've been pretty hung up on American whiskey. Look, bourbon's huge. I love bourbon, but I'm just it's jumped the shark.
Yeah.
To use that phrase, it's just it's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, people are paying $250, $300 for a bottle of Stag Junior.
Yeah.
And Stag Junior is a delicious bottle of whiskey at $50 or $60. It is just not worth any more than that.
I recently, I know we swore off bourbon for this podcast, but I gave some friends the Stag Junior the other day, and they said, this is the best whiskey I've ever had. I said, you can't get it. And they said, why? I said, because it'll cost you a second mortgage. And they said, oh, I don't like it then.
Yeah. Well, and look, that's got to be a part of the decision. And I'll tell you this too, we won't give details because it's a speakeasy club and we're not supposed to, it's a fight club kind of thing. Yeah. Although I did see a video of Brad Pitt going, I'm old. I no longer remember the first rule of Fight Club. But in that little club, I get a list occasionally. I give them my top 5 from that list. And based on how quickly I respond, I get one of those bottles.
I can't help but notice the absence of said bottle.
It is still at the store. I've not picked it up. But I'll tell you this, and it's pretty close to retail. It's a super fair price. Yeah. And on the list that I got just 2 nights ago, was a Stag Junior for $60. Could have bought it.
Yeah.
Weller Full Proof. $60. Could have bought it.
Right.
Weller CYPB, Weller 12, Weller.
Yeah.
And I did not notice this at first, but there was also an Old Fitzgerald 8-year-old bottle to buy. I have desperately wanted an Old Fitzgerald bottle and never gotten one, and I got it.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited.
I'm pretty excited. Yeah.
I've had Old Fitzgerald and I really liked it.
You know, there are two lines left from Pappy's days, and Old Fitzgerald was the whiskey he sold. Pappy was his son, or his grandson actually,
Right.
that started a different line, but they're both wheated bourbons. They both harken back to that day.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty excited for that Old Fitzgerald. But I'm telling you, if I couldn't buy them at those prices, because that same bottle, like the 8-year-old bottle, that's a $250 bottle in the secondary. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm just out.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
Right.
And anything, whiskey, whatever, it's worth what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
So Stag Junior is worth $300 a bottle because that's what people are paying for it. I think that's stupid.
Yeah.
And I'll just say it. It's just stupid.
It's worth $60 to $70.
It's a great $60 bottle. That Old Fitzgerald, I'm going to pay $80 for it. It's probably a really good $80 bottle. Yeah. It's probably even overpriced a bit there, but I'm out.
You what, that Old Fitz though. So you know me, I'm not a big Weller fan.
You're not.
I do like the Antique 107, but I love the Old Rip 10. And I've actually had Pappy, and that was fantastic. But Weller just doesn't do it for me. But the Old Fitz, I remember being that one of those experiences where I was like, this is a good whiskey.
Well, we're about to experience it again.
Well, and I'm curious what your response is going to be because
I hope I like it. But I'm able
if
to.
not, you can donate it to the Dan shelf.
If I don't like it, I'll be glad to do that. But I think I want people to. Nothing's worse than that person calling the store every fall. You got any Pappy?
You got any Pappy?
Man, I can't imagine what ugly things I'd say to somebody that did that. I'm just not going to be that person. Plus, Pappy 23 is, I think, a retail is $240 or $250. Yeah. I mean, I'd struggle to pay that. 23 years of a bourbon in a barrel. I mean, God, that's a long time.
Well, the 15 is kind of the sweet spot, right?
I think the lot B or the 15 is the sweet spot.
The 15
and if somehow I got a 23 at retail, I would just trade it for a couple of 12s, a 15, and whatever else.
I've had the 15. I've never had the lot B, but that 15, I would rank it in top 3 of best bottles I've ever sipped from.
And I'm a bit mad because I have an unopened bottle of Stag Junior. And I've never sold a bottle like that. You and I have swapped bottles because I've got something you want or vice versa, but I've never sold a bottle, but I'm going to let some dumbass pay me $250 for something I paid $50 for.
Well, fortunately, there's a bottle of Stag Junior open right there. So,
well, this is a Scotch episode. So as far as since nobody can see, as far as nobody knows, we're going to drink just Scotch.
I think we just did.
Yeah. So this has been fun. I have very much enjoyed a varied return to the island of Islay,
it was
in Scotland. I believe we'll stay there a while.
I think so.
And hopefully everybody enjoyed this. If you hadn't gotten into Scotch, you've got to do it. It's
quite a journey.
It is a journey, and it's just different. And if you're struggling like I am with why bourbon costs so much and all this nonsense about chasing stuff and secondary prices, there's just, not only are there other bourbons that are good, that tasting.
Oh my God.
But there are other parts of the world. I mean, there's some Irish whiskeys that will blow your mind. They're so good. And they aren't all that expensive. And
maybe we should do an Irish episode.
I recently opened up a Redbreast 12 Irish whiskey, single pot still, which is a cool designation. We'll talk about that when we drink together.
Yeah.
But also have a cask strength version of that.
Let's do it.
The the green spot, the yellow spot Irish whiskeys are great. There's a bunch of different decent blended Irish whiskeys.
That means let's do it.
Let's just drink it. All right, we'll drink that next time. For now, I think this has been fun. I don't know if anybody else learned anything.
Wow, we drank a lot of whiskey, though.
We drank some whiskey, and we quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was great.
And somehow, if that helps you feel better listening to us do that, I'm glad we could help.
We're here to help.
Cheers, Dan. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah.